Radhe Radhe, a spiritual good morning to one and all on Saturday, 1st October 2022, where Mummy and I are here to record our recap video for today's Bhagavad Gita study session in the continuing journey of chapter 6.
Radhe Radhe, everybody.
So going ahead to share the screen, we'll look at the content that was covered today, as always, followed by a few quiz questions. So up on the screen now, you'll be able to see that we covered verses 14 and 15. Always as a reminder, these slides, the recap video, and all other information and useful references, please take a look below the video in the description section so that you can get information on how to access all of that material. So as I said, we had our quiz questions, and then chapter 6, verses 14 and 15. Chapter 6, verse 14, vigilant visionary. We'll hear the recitation first from Mummy, and then I'll briefly talk about it.
Prashantatma vigatbhi brahmachari vrate sthitaha manas sanyamya machitto yukta asit matparaha.
So here the catchphrase is vigilant visionary. Sri Krishna himself calls a yogi as vigilant. So the ones who are vigilant and they practice certain activities and attributes, they eventually through meditation can attain the supreme goal. So here we really hope that the vision they develop is eventually with God's grace as that divine vision of the Supreme himself. And that's going to happen through constant practice of meditation. So looking at chapter 6, verse 14 and its commentary, we see that Sri Krishna has mentioned that those vigilant yogis who are meditating, they're the ones who have to be serene, fearless, and with an unwavering mind, one-pointed, not many-branched, equanimous to all situations, and not distracted by the dualities of Maya. So with all that, and with a staunch vow of celibacy, they eventually can meditate on Sri Krishna, the Supreme, himself alone as the supreme goal. We discussed in the commentary that Swamiji has provided comparisons of humans to the animal world and also talked about sage Dhanvantari with concepts of Ayurveda and really the power of energy through very, very controlled disciplines. We also stressed that nevertheless, the question that comes up from people would be with regards to one of the ashrams of life, the grihastha or householder ashram of life. Absolutely, scriptures do mention that one can practice certain activities in that stage as well. The goal being to progressively get more and more spiritual and always with a sense of discipline and control. So with all of that, with that serene atmosphere and that fearless mind, but also an unwavering controlled mind, it is important to be meditating upon God. Often people wonder where that's coming from. Swamiji talks about Rup Dhyan meditation, which we shall talk about in the next verse. But really here, we see it from Sri Krishna himself. He categorically stated to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 14 here, that the vigilant yogi should meditate on him and having him as the supreme goal. In fact, we reminded you also about chapter 3, verse 30, which we've mentioned many times in previous classes as well, that this is probably the first place in the Bhagavad Gita when Sri Krishna had mentioned this concept of meditating upon him. So work and sacrifice, chapter 3, Karma Yoga and Yagna, with that second part of the sentence, constantly meditate on me as the Supreme, said by Sri Krishna. So again, a reminder there of the importance of what or who the object of the meditation should be. Mummy, I'll pass it to you then for chapter 6, verse 15, after any comments there.
We'll move to verse 15. Chapter 6, verse 15, absorb, adsorb. Yunjannevam sadatmanam yogi niyatmanasaha Shantim nirvana paramam mat sanstham adhigachati. So before I give it to you, I'm going to talk about this word here, Yunjan. Yunjan means to keep the mind absorbed in God. This is what Krishna is telling us. And in the previous verse, Krishna used the word Prashantatma. Prashantatma means serene mind. So, this is what we need to learn. We need to discipline ourselves. We need to control our mind. It should be unwavering, and then it should get connected to God. It should always be absorbed in God. Now, how to do that? You have to bring that bhav that if you are doing some household work, you are cooking for God, so keep on remembering God's name. If you are doing gardening, then you think that I'm growing these flowers for God. Keep that God's name in your mind. You can be meditating in any state, it just depends on the control of your mind, right? That same mind can be thinking about 100 other things, but when it gets absorbed, when it is controlled, and when we move up the ladder of spirituality, then we can keep it absorbed in God in doing our different activities. So, with that, I'll give it over to you, Gagan.
Yeah, indeed, Mummy. You just talked about Manasi Seva, mentioned by Swamiji in the commentary, serving God in the mind. So, regardless of atmosphere and circumstances, one can always do that service in the mind. So, as you said, cooking and offering food to the Lord, singing with Him, bathing Him, all kinds of activities that you want to contemplate, that you're having in various bhavs or sentiments with the Supreme Lord. That can all be done in the mind, and the power of that is revealed through meditation, constant practice of meditating upon Sri Krishna. So chapter 6, verse 15, again, just going back to the catchphrase here, absorb, adsorb. So keeping the mind absorbed in God, then just as we humans and in this body form are chemicals and substances, we eventually want to have a bond strong enough that we get stuck or absorbed upon or onto God and have that union, that merging, that yog with the Supreme Himself. So again, right here, we talk about, through Swamiji's commentary, that Sri Krishna has mentioned constant meditation upon Him as the Supreme, and eventually that helps lead these vigilant yogis to attain nirvana and attain or abide in the Supreme. So we mentioned in class that this is nirvana beyond just the day-to-day liberation that some people seek, which is just to get away from the Maya-based world. The last step, though, that is important, is to have that attainment of the union with the Supreme. So that is coming from Sri Krishna Himself with this reminder again of the constant practice of meditation. Now, Swamiji has mentioned in the commentary that with our sanskars and just previous lifetimes, we tend to get attracted to forms. And forms, of course, could be material or they could be divine. So why not pick up on all the various forms or attributes of God Himself? So there are things such as the names, forms, pastimes, virtues, abodes, and associates of God. For those of you familiar with Hindi or Sanskrit, we've heard them in the bhajan or arti for Maharaj Ji and in other places as well. Nam, Roop, Lila, Guna, Dham, Sant. So all these, you pick from that selection and meditate in a way that suits your preference. So that's why in Swamiji's various meditation videos, discourses, and retreats, there are so many offerings of meditation upon Sri Krishna with Arjun on the Kurukshetra battlefield, or as Mummy mentioned, inviting Sri Krishna and Radharani to your home and cooking for them, washing their feet, taking them to your temple. Many different versions, gardening and thinking of God. You pick the one that works for you, pick many different kinds. That is going to be helpful with that repeated practice of meditation upon the Supreme. So again, that is Roop Dhyan meditation. As we mentioned, introduced way back in chapter 3, verse 30, but certainly again today in chapter 6, verse 14, chapter 6, verse 15. And with all of that, we get the everlasting bliss and beatitude of God realization. Mummy, over to you.
Thank you, Gagan. Yes, and another difference we are seeing right here that Krishna himself is saying that meditate upon me, meditate upon Krishna, that he is saying. There are lots of other ways also of meditation that we see, that you can do meditation on pran, breath, you can do meditation, you can focus on a flame, you can do meditation on your chakras. Yes, opening the chakras, that increases life force energy, no doubt about it, and you feel good. The only thing which is different here, with Roop Dhyan, your mind is also purified. That's one thing very, very important, which I have um, understood and I have observed during these past 3 years since I started following Swamiji. So those meditations are also very good. They bring very good focus. They bring discipline in you. They do good to your health. Everything very fine. But now, if with all that, once you include Roop Dhyan meditation also, that really purifies your mind, your heart, your feelings, and it's a totally different feeling when you do Roop Dhyan meditation. It transports you to another world of loving devotion to God, which has, of course, many stages, but with beautiful bhav, slowly, slowly, sometimes sakha bhav, sometimes um, motherly bhav, different bhavs you can continue, and with that you can reach a stage. And then we have seen in Gopi Prem Geet that their bhav was so high, and their prem was so high, their feelings were so pure. And then when you do Roop Dhyan with such feelings, then it has a different effect on yourself and the people around you, and you are in a world of joy and bliss. Yeah. Okay, Gagan. Yeah.
Yeah, very helpful. I think even as you were saying all that, I was slowly getting transported to some of that, but also wanted to remind myself that I'm still part of the video right now. So
Yes.
that does bring us, of course, to the conclusion here for the recap video. But truly, as Mami mentioned, I mean, that power of meditation transporting us to that Shuddha Sattva state eventually, beyond the three modes of material nature, totally blissful and divine. Speaking
So
of
for
divine,
that, we urge our participants to join our Radha Krishna temple Sunday satsang. When in that Sunday satsang, they are singing Maharaj's bhajans, which are full of loving devotion and philosophy. And those who can understand automatically by singing or listening to those satsang, your mind gets attached and you really feel purified, and that automatically becomes a Roop Dhyan meditation. Also, lots of good celebrations and Devi pujas going on at the Radha Krishna temple. Do get connected with the website radhakrishnatemple.net/Navratri and see all the different celebrations, online celebrations also you can join, and the seva opportunities. So stay connected and take advantage of all the offerings that Radha Krishna temple has for the community. And soon we are going to be celebrating Sharad Purnima. So lots coming your way, and keep connected. Yeah, Gagan?
absolutely. Navratri as we speak, leading into the Shara, leading into Sharad Purnima and the centenary celebrations of Jagadguru Sri Kripalaji Maharaj. Starts as early as later today, of course, Saturday, but then tomorrow, as Mami mentioned, satsang and so on, plenty. So please make the most. We shall see you next time in class on Saturday, 8th October, 2022. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.